This week, Fabiano Caruana shows us the real difference between a Grandmaster and a Super Grandmaster, disposing of his opponent in just 24 moves. Before we get into the game, just a quick non-sponsor shout out to Chess for Connection. They're a not-for-profit chess organization connecting seniors and youth, turning isolation and boring old bloody nursing homes into meaningful connections. But let's get into it, shall we? And the strong Brazilian Grandmaster kicks us off with d4. We opt for one of the Indian defenses. They carry on as normal. We opt for the fianchetto, and we go into a King's Indian defense. They mirror us with their own fianchetto over this way. And we go into sort of like a Grunfeld styles, but usually like this knight's here, right? So Computer Overlord doesn't agree that it's a Grunfeld, but it's pretty similar. They take our pawn. Fabi recaptures with the knight. They get the bishop out. We prophylactically bring him back, so we don't have to worry about any tricks. They get the knight up. We get our other knight in. They reinforce the center. There's a lot of pressure this way, right? Like we're attacking it all these ways, and they're only defending it a couple times. So they're just reinforcing this guy. We develop. We get our castle. They castle too. Get our rook to where we think it's going to be useful. They do the same. And we grab some space on the queen side. These moves always don't seem like they do much, but this is probably one of the winning moves of the game. You'll see very shortly. They get the queen out. They want to connect the rooks, but it's quite difficult with the bishop here as well. We get our bishop here. Got to be careful though. Anytime you're doing this, you're just asking to be pawn forked, right? So you got to calculate this correctly. They X-ray attack this square, they want to prepare this pawn fork. And if you imagine this knight moves out of the way, they got, all these guys barreling down on that square. But this is the reason why we could get away with putting our pieces in weird kind of position, is we want to do this and hit the queen, protected by the knight. Queen moves out of the way, and we get another tempo. Push them back. And we force them back to unconnecting their rooks again. And we got all these pieces on the queen side attacking. So what should we do? Strike at the center. They're underdeveloped. We want to hit the center. They hit our knight back. And Fabiano Caruana just proves why he's a super GM and we're not. He takes the pawn here, leaving his knight hanging. But just blows me away how he can get away with this, because he's walked into a pin. If he takes the knight, he loses the queen, right? They can just take his knight, which they do. But Fabi doesn't care. Positional queen sacrifice time. How good. I don't know about you guys, but I ain't ever finding this move. I ain't ever positionally sacrificing my queen. Like, no way. We take back. And the whole idea is we're threatening back rank issues. So they don't have time to take our pawn. Otherwise, that would be a dumb move, what we just played. But they can play this, right? Check. Come in like this. They had to block there. And, we still got a game on our hands, but black's doing it right here. So instead, they got to kind of play this queen here just to stop the back rank issues. So we take this pawn, and again, you can't actually take this because we push b3, queen has to go back, and we come in with these back rank checks again. Remember, you're gonna lose the bishop here. The lines go on. I'm not gonna bore you with a bunch of computer lines, but you can just trust me that black's doing really well. So they play this move, and the reason why, again, is because if you take, we push. So they need to stop these back rank issues, and they just want to, these pawns are too strong. We just got to get rid of one of these guys. Otherwise, it's going to be unstoppable, right? Remember, like, they did positionally sacrifice that queen, so we got all this extra material, so sometimes you got to give it back, You just got to give it back. Fabi accepts. And in case you were wondering about, like, the position, like, how close this is, because it's kind of hard to figure out with, like, the position and then the material compensation. According to the computer, it's the dead draw. But Fabi's had a slight advantage in most of this game. And super GMs win drawn games all the time. So he brings his rook over. And we actually gambit the pawn here. So we gambit the pawn to come in with a check, to tangle them up. They don't really want to go down because then we start giving checks. They go here. They're just going to run into all sorts of tricks. So for that reason, they block with the bishop and try to hold on for dear life here. As a human, it's not easy to play, and actually black's winning here. Black's winning. But then after this move, we just keep applying the pressure. We keep hitting them. We keep forcing them to respond to us. And eventually they're going to crack. No matter how good of a player you are, eventually you crack. This is it. Completely losing now. Fabi's last move. Piece is pinned. What do? Apply pressure. We're going to pick up the bishop here. So the piece is pinned. If you move it, you lose your queen, right? So pretty much they're going to have like a queen left and a bishop. But this pawn is going to be pretty much impossible to stop without sacking this bishop if you didn't even have time to do that. And they're going to have all these fellas. Way too much. So Fabiano Caruana's opponent throws in the towel here. He's made a video of this. in his mother tongue. I couldn't understand it. I wanted to do it for research, but I'm sure it's much better than my analysis. I'm sure he goes into the deep lines. I like just covering what happened in the game, and I don't go into the sidelines too much. So if you want a deeper dive on this game, feel free to and you speak and you speak his language, feel free to dive in over there. I'll put a link to it in the description if I don't forget, along with the not-for-profit Chess for Connection, because I really like what those guys are doing. I'll see you next week, same time.